Hey guys, my name is Carson, and I may have a quiet life now, but when I was younger, I survived a serial killer attack. It all started when I won a cruise for two. I didn't have a date or many friends, so I decided to give the other tickets to my younger brother. The cruise was beautiful, big and luxurious. I don't come from a very wealthy family, so after leaving my brother in our room, I explored the cruise with a huge smile on my face. Everything was going great until I walked into a room thinking it was an ordinary room. I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. Inside the room there was a corpse of a woman, and next to it a couple was being hanged by a huge man of almost 2 meters. His body was skeletal, huge and imposing. The man was in a beautiful black suit that contrasted with the violent nature of his movements. Before this person could have the slightest intention of throwing himself at me, I ran as fast as I could in search of my brother. Instead of running into him, I ran into some security guards, to whom I told everything. They ran into the room, and despite not finding the killer, we saw the victims. When they didn't find the killer, the guards escorted me out of the room to ask me more questions. And that's when I realized something. I was a suspect. I admit I made the wrong decision. I shouldn't have done this, but it scared me. All of a sudden, I ran as fast as I could, and the guards came after me. As we ran, one took another direction, probably to look for reinforcements, while his partner was still chasing me. I went into my room, searching for my brother. He could tell I was with him all the time. I escaped to my room, and luckily he wasn't bad. But he was not alone. The killer was there. Before I could react, the giant of a man ignored me and rushed toward the figure behind me, the security guard. As he choked him, I tried to help him, but it was useless. His strength was superhuman. I grabbed my brother and ran as fast as I could. I had to pass by the killer, but he ignored me. He had already killed his victim and stood staring at him. I ran to meet the other security guards and told them everything. The strangest thing happened when I asked my brother to tell them what had happened. My brother quickly ran to the security people and told them I had killed the guard and hanged him as soon as he entered the room. He also said that he was not my brother, that I had kidnapped him and threatened him before I got on the boat. Why was he lying? He seemed pretty convinced with his words, as he was crying non-stop. The guards helped me, and a few hours later I was in the custody of the police. For some reason they accused me of being a dangerous serial killer who had hanged people to death. Luckily the truth came out, and they didn't put me in jail. Now, with the same energy that they accused me, I hope they keep looking for that scary 6-foot man and manage to capture him. Who knows what a psychopath like that can do if he's still free. The story that I'm about to tell you may seem rather improbable, but rest assured that if my story were not hard to believe, I would not be alive. It all started that fateful Saturday. This was my first day of vacation with my girlfriend, and we were going to an island paradise on a beautiful cruise ship. Everything was going well until a strong storm hit the cruise ship with a full force. The cruise ship was going back and forth. Furniture and pictures were falling down, children were crying, and some parents with seasickness were vomiting so much that they could not calm them down. The captain gathered us in the main saloon to give us some peace and quiet. The rain stopped after a few minutes, but the cruise ship lost its course. Out of nowhere, a loud bang on the bottom of the ship alerted everyone. The ship's workers went down to see what was happening, and in a few seconds the screams began. Violent screams, full of pain and panic, covered every meter of the cruise ship. Then, silence. The captain told us to lock ourselves in our rooms. From there, the nightmare began. In a matter of minutes, the lights went out and the screams multiplied. When we thought of leaving the room, it was too late. The screams were getting closer and closer. What was it that was killing all the passengers? The noise came from below. Did a submarine hit us? Suddenly my bedroom door exploded. My girlfriend and I were hiding under the bed, and when we saw what came in, it was a miracle we didn't scream. A strange being was standing in front of us. It looked like an amphibian, but its legs were positioned like those of a human. It inspected the room for a while and disinterested left. We thought about staying hidden until the monster left, but we began to feel water brushing against our toes. The ship was flooding. We took a chance and ran out of the room, and when I turned around to look back, I saw it. It was a huge being, more than 2 meters long. It was a massive amphibian with a huge toad head. When it looked back at me, I noticed that it was swallowing a person. The victim was being swallowed without being chewed. The legs kicked desperately until suddenly they stopped moving and entered an amphibian mouth. Once it had swallowed its prey, the creature began to run towards us. It was very fast, but we already had a big head start, so we slammed the bare door in its face before it could catch up with us. I told my girlfriend to run, that I would stay and lock the door, and if we let go, we would both die. She understood and ran desperately, and when she got far enough away, I let go of the door and started running. This time I had no chance. The monster was too close and would catch up with me. I started to escape through the side of the huge cruiser, and when I was about to be the next victim of the amphibian, I jumped into the water. When I fell into the water, there was no trace of the monster near me, so I breathed a sigh of relief. Near me was a person with a life jacket on. The man might have been protected from drowning, but he had a huge wound that cost him his life. I took off his life jacket, put it on me, and looked up as a helicopter approached above me. I couldn't see well, but I recognized a girl in my girlfriend's clothes running away. After that, I swam away as I watched the cruiser sink. I didn't want to be near that monster when it happened. A few hours later, I had a stroke of luck, and a small boat found me and picked me up. When I got ashore, I tried everywhere I could to contact my girlfriend, but to no avail. Neither she nor any of the other passengers showed up again. No one ever reported what happened to that cruise ship. It was as if he had never existed. When I tried to raise my voice, I only received mockery and some insults on the networks, but outside of them, I began to see how some people were watching me. They didn't even bother to hide. It was as if they wanted me to know they were watching me. I don't know who these people are or what will happen to me in the future. I just want to find my girlfriend and forget what happened with that terrifying monster, but every time I see it more difficult. Many people say that cruises are some of the most relaxing and luxurious places a person can go. And yes, in my experience, the cruise I went on was very elegant, but considering I almost died, I would say it was not very relaxing. I wasn't planning to go on vacation, let alone spend a few days on a cruise, but the opportunity came by itself. Richard, a man I met on Tinder, told me he was the captain of a cruise ship, and to my surprise, he didn't lie. After going out a few times with him, he told me he had a cruise trip and formally invited me to be part of it. The day of the trip, I noticed that I was not listed on the cruise list, nor did I have a personal room. I found it a little strange and even uncomfortable, but I understood and accepted. Richard was very kind and understanding. I walked around the cruise ship before going into the room. Richard was probably already in it, but on my way to his door, through a long hallway, something strange happened. Two strange female figures appeared in front of me. They both looked at me angrily. Where had they come from? It didn't take long for my question to be answered, as one of them appeared in front of me in the blink of an eye, and with superhuman speed and violence, grabbed me by the hair and dragged me across the corridor away from Richard's door. Terrified, I ran as fast and as far as I could. When I calmed down, I went to the captain's cabin, and somewhat timidly I spoke to Richard, who luckily was alone. I didn't dare tell him that I saw ghosts. He would probably think I was crazy. So I just told him that there were women near his room who tried to rob me. The man called with his communicator to the staff captain, and with me we ran to his room. But there was no one there, so he invited me in. Once we got there, I started to explore the room, a little scared while Richard was looking for something in his closet. As I looked around the room, I glanced at the mirror, and with a muffled scream I jumped back in fright. The two women were in the mirror. Both had deformed faces and stab wounds all over their bodies. They were both looking at me, but at the same time pointing at Richard. As I looked at him, I realized that he was holding something shiny that could only be seen in the reflection of the mirror. That was a knife. Suddenly Richard began to walk in my direction slowly. His face was full of anticipation, and he couldn't hide his huge grin. The man had no problem with me knowing his intentions. I ran to the door in desperation, but it was locked. Richard locked it while I was distracted. I felt nervously awaiting my end, until suddenly I felt a strange force that threw me violently against the door, breaking it and leaving me several meters away. In pain, I stood up and ran away from Richard, who was catching me with his knife at high speed. What Richard did not think about was that his sick thirst of blood would cost him dearly, as all the crew members of the ship stopped him in his tracks. Soon after, I learned that Richard had been arrested for double homicide. The victims, young women whom Richard seduced and then killed in his room, just like me. When I saw the photos of the women, I recognized them immediately. They were the ghosts that were with me on the boat. They never tried to harm me. They just wanted to get me away from that room. They didn't want me at Richard's hands, to go through what they did. Thank you for listening to our story. We hope it gave you a good scare. If you like it, please like, share and subscribe to our channel for more spooky stories.